Great, so it's a couple minutes after, so I'll go ahead and get started. I want to welcome everybody today. This is the Chat with the Dean session for Admitted Spartan Day, and we're excited to see all of you here. What I'd like to do is just do some quick introductions. So there's two of us here to represent the deans of the College of Engineering. And then I want to encourage you also to just please feel free to drop your name, your intended major, and then your hometown into the chat so we can just get a sense of who's here. It's great to see everybody. So my name is Cheryl Ehrman. I am the Don Beal Dean of the Davidson College of Engineering. My own background is chemical engineering, but I've really been enjoying being dean these past almost 5 years now, where we have all kinds of great, wonderful programs, and I get to learn about all the other fields besides just what I already knew before I started. All right, I see Yash, biomedical engineering, San Ramon, awesome. All right, and I'll let my colleague Nicole introduce herself.
Morning, everybody. And again, welcome. We're glad that you're here. I'm an Associate Dean for Undergraduate Programs and Student Success Initiatives here in the College of Engineering. I'm in my 21st year here at San Jose State, and I come from a mechanical engineering background. I was chair of that department for 6 years before moving into this role. So looking forward to hearing your questions.
All right, great. All right, I'm seeing lots and lots of students and majors in the chat. This is wonderful. We've got people, looks like pretty much all of the majors are represented. So what I'll do is I'll give a little bit of information about the college, and then I'll be happy to answer questions. And one thing I'm going to do, I'm going to drop this in the chat. You'll have to scroll up to catch it, but this is one of many sessions today where you can get information about the College of Engineering. And for things that are specific to the major, I definitely want you to refer you to check out the major specific info sessions later today. They're at different times. Some of them are at the same time, but hopefully if you're considering between majors, you can catch both of them. And there's also some of the departments have put additional information as well, such as interdisciplinary engineering. You can see about our Engineering 10 robot project for freshmen. And then we've got information on our Formula Car team and the mechanical engineering session, lots of other things to check out, including even some student club videos or overviews. So to talk a little bit about the College of Engineering here at San Jose State, we are one of the largest programs in California. I think we are second only to UC San Diego, which is interesting to have a huge engineering program down there. We graduate about 1,800 students per year total. 2/3 of those students are undergraduate students like you. 1/3 of them are master's students. We have a very big graduate program. So if you're thinking all the way beyond your graduate degree or all the way beyond your undergraduate degree, we can be here for you too in that way. In an analysis our College of Graduate Studies did, it turns out that 1 in every 50 graduates every year in engineering and that gets a master's comes out of San Jose State. So we have 13 different programs at the undergraduate level, and again, another 13 programs at the graduate level. Undergraduate wise, there's about 4,500 students in the College of Engineering. Some programs like software engineering are relatively large. Other programs like materials engineering are really small. But even in the larger programs like software engineering, there's clubs and other ways where you can have a small experience even within that larger department. We have a lot of programs to help support students. The first that I'll mention is our Engineering Student Success Center. They're running sessions today. So they do advising for a lot of the programs in the college, and they're just a really great resource for all of our students. And then we have a MESA engineering program, which helps support students if you might be the first in your family to go to college, or if you're a student from historically underserved group, there's a lot of programming that they run. And then the departments and clubs do run lots of programming again to support students. So there's no, engineering is considered a rigorous major. So it's one of those things where there is a lot of work. You know, engineers might find themselves working when some of their friends are in other majors are not and doing other things. But at the end, the benefits are really wonderful. So we're the #1 source of talent for Silicon Valley. And also, if you're considering coming here from out of area, there's our students do really well when they return back to, you know, some other part of California or the United States when they look for work as well. So I'm seeing lots of, all the way far south is San Diego and see where else, Santa Cruz. Nice. So some interesting, relatively new developments for our college that I'll share out. We're in the process of finalizing what we call 4+1 programs, which would be accelerated programs where you can get your undergraduate degree and also with one more year of study can get a master's degree. We're just waiting for our chancellor's office to sort out how many of the units can be applied to both degrees. And then our interdisciplinary engineering track, they have a, in their Bachelor of Science interdisciplinary engineering, they have a pre-law track. So the IDE or interdisciplinary engineering track is fairly agile. So you can specialize in 2 different areas within there. So it's a good place if you're considering being between majors and you're not sure which to choose. And one of the specializations can be business, for example. Another specialization could be pre-law, where you learn about law and technology, and that helps you to prepare for eventually going to law school with a focus on intellectual property law. But there's a lot going on right now with respect to technology and the law, and so it could be much broader. So those are the that's just the overview of the college that I wanted to give, but we want to really use most of this time as a chat. So if you have a question, feel free to use the raise hand function, or you can go ahead and put it in the chat and then we can call out the questions there. I'll read it back to everybody. So if your transfer is coming in fall 2022, is it still possible to add the 4+1 track? So that is something I am not sure about, because again, we're waiting for the chancellor's office to sort out how many of the units can be double counted. And so I don't know if we've got it set. Nicole has an answer though. Yay.
It depends on your major. We have the programs approved already for a few of the majors. I'd have to double check which ones. The difficulty right now is, according to the chancellor's office, you have to do 150 units for both degrees. What we're trying to do is be able to double count, like Dean Ehrman said, some of the units, so you can get out in fewer units. And so that's what's still on the board. So if you come in as a transfer student, there's plenty of time to join the 4+1 track, but it's not really accelerated yet. We're supposed to get an answer this summer about that. And again, it's not with all majors, only some of the majors have this option available.
So Nicole, would you be able to dig in and just get the list of who's got it approved? It's a short list right now of who has it approved. I've seen some around that. Oh, and I also want to just call out, so 1/2 of our students in the undergraduate program, when you think about who's coming in and who is there at graduation time, they're half transfer students. And so if you think about, oh, I'm a transfer student, I'm going to be part of just a small group and everybody else has been here since freshman year, that's actually not the case. So the transfer students are a really big group of students on our campus. We love transfer students. All right, a question about, can you do a minor along with an engineering major? That one's a tough one. So our engineering programs, along with some of the other programs on campus, especially in the health sciences, are what they call very scaffolded. So there's no free electives. And so the options to do a minor would be, you have to think about, could you extend your study? And then also think about the structure within the minor very carefully. So you want to make sure that you're taking all the courses in the right sequence when they're offered. And it would take you extra time unless you were coming in with a lot of advanced placement or IB type credits. And so that might get space in your schedule where you could fit a minor in. That's a good question.
Some of the popular minors are business, math, because that one actually is only 6 units instead of the 12 like other minors. But we also have things like, we have a new robotics minor. There's a materials engineering minor, there's engineering management minor. So some of those are good options, particularly if you're in one of those cases where you can't graduate in 4 years, so it's pushing you to 5, but you don't really have enough units to fill up 5. And that's a good thing to add in.
That's a good point. Yeah, so somebody's asking, are we going to be offering tours of the engineering labs? So the campus is offering in-person tours, and so I would urge you to sign up for those. So that's I think it might be best to maybe reach out to the department that you're interested in joining and seeing if you can come do visits, because some of the department chairs will host folks for lab tours that way. Another question, this would be a good question for Associate Dean Okamoto. What are the chances of successfully switching majors within the engineering department?
Sure, I just put in the chat the approved 4+1 programs. There are 3 of them right now, and then 3 more should be in place for the fall semester. Those are the ones in the works. So for changing major, it depends on the major. Some are harder to get into than others. So if you have if you're passing your classes and doing well, some of the less impacted majors like materials engineering, industrial and systems engineering, aerospace engineering, it's relatively easy to change a major. If you want to go into some of the more impacted majors like software, computer engineering, mechanical engineering, you're likely going to need about a 3.0 GPA and Bs in some key courses like Calc 1, Calc 2, the first physics class, possibly a programming class for a computer and software engineering. And for transfer students, it's similarly, they're looking for, roughly, 3.0 GPA to change majors once you've transferred in. So they'll look at, typically you'll go to the advisor in that department if you're a transfer student, and they'll give you a list of courses to take. And if you do well on those courses after the first semester, you'll be approved to change major. So it's definitely not guaranteed that you can change major. You have to be doing relatively well, but a lot of people do.
And I will add in that majors that people consider changing into are majors that folks might not have been as aware of as high school students or community college students, like materials engineering or industrial and systems engineering.
Yeah, like if you really like, if you like programming, but you're not sure if computer engineering is for you, they do a lot of programming in industrial and systems engineering. And so that's a major you might not have heard of, but could be a good option to check out.
So question about, will companies hiring for internships look at your SJSU grades? I think it kind of depends on the company. I think it's always good to make sure you're not down there at the very bottom of the 2 somethings. But I don't think we have too many companies that are super specific about looking for very high GPAs. There's a lot of things that go into the grades that you get, and definitely students who are working, who have other responsibilities, it makes it a little difficult to do the above and beyond to get a super high GPA. But you also have really great skills that companies look for, like being able to multitask. And being able to work with different kinds of people. And so I don't think we have too many companies that are looking for, 3-point way high type grades.
Some of our industrial members have said that they'd rather see somebody with a little lower GPA who's been involved, either had internships or involved in the student club and has been really active. And that's more important to them than having that super high GPA.
Yeah, that's a really great point. So there are 350 or so. If you're joining and if you could mute yourself, that would be great. Yeah, so we have something like 350 student clubs on campus. I think engineering has maybe 70 clubs, and those are really great ways to get engaged and meet either other people in your discipline or meet people in an area that you're interested in, whether it's related to your discipline or not. Yeah, if folks have questions about AP calculus, there's a question there. I don't know if Associate Dean Okamoto wants to take that one.
Let's see, I'm just looking for the question. Where is it?
Oh, it's 10:11 in the morning.
Oh, so if you've taken AP calculus, AB and BC, what credit can I receive? You'd receive credit for math 30 and 31. That's Calc 1 and Calc 2, as long as you have a score of 3 or better. If you just have AB, then you'd have credit for math 30, which is our Calc 1. And having AP credit, whether it's in calculus or for your general eds, that's, our programs are really packed, and that's a really good way to help get out in 4 years.
Okay, so somebody is noting that our tours are booked for April. I'll share this information with Student Affairs and see if they can add more tours. I'm a prospective San Jose State parent myself. My daughter is 17 and looking hard at San Jose State, and we also just recently were not able to get a tour. So I will forward that information forward. All right, what is a typical class size? Yeah, so that is a really good question. There's a bit of program dependency there. So again, materials engineering, pretty small class sizes for the classes that are taken only by their majors. It can be a little bigger if their class is taken by people outside, and by small, I'm thinking 25 students. In other programs, there may be courses where everybody is required to take them, and they're offering one per semester. So that might be as big as 80 students, but we don't have 500-person classes in engineering. We just don't do that.
Where you'll get some big classes are in, for example, the first physics class. They'll have a really big lecture, but then they'll have small lab sections. And so that's how it's usually paired. And same with our intro to engineering class. You might have 200 students in intro to engineering in the lecture, but then you'll have a lab with 20 people in it.
Yeah, so I'm seeing classes that are, or questions, I'm sorry, that are asking about specific programs. And so for the people interested in aerospace engineering and want to know about what kinds of hands-on projects they have, I would really recommend going to the aerospace info session so you can get more specific information there. All of our majors, even software engineering, all of our majors, including even software engineering, have lots of project-based classes. And so there are plenty of hands-on opportunities. And I would urge you to go to the major specific programs to learn more. And then somebody's asking about clubs regarding robotics and engineering. So we have a lot of clubs. We do have a dedicated SJSU robotics club. That's, I mean, obviously that's in robotics. We have clubs that are focused on disciplines, and then we also have clubs that are focused on projects and contests. So some of those examples, robotics is a contest focused team where people from all the different majors can join if they have an interest in robotics. And then they'll build a robot, then take it to I think it's a Mars rover competition. We have a Formula SAE group, and they run 3 cars. And so there's a Baja combustion and a electric vehicle that they build every year. And that's interdisciplinary. There's no way you can build a car with only mechanical engineers. You need all kinds of different majors, including business majors are typically a part of their team. We have a Hyperloop competition team that's building a pod to race in the hyperlink competitions that they're running through the Elon Musk company down, what is it, SpaceX. And there's also a new competition in Europe that I found out about. Yeah, so there's a lot of different things. There's also clubs that are, we have a engineering co-ed fraternity, Theta Tau, and then we also have an engineering sorority. So we even have Greek organizations with an engineering focus. Okay, somebody's curious about the word scaffolding. So the scaffolding, if you're in a major like electrical engineering where there are specializations, that's part of this, the structure of the scaffolding. It just means that it's difficult, say, if you wanted to take a couple of music classes, it's hard to fit that in unless you have the AP units. So within the majors, they all have some number of electives, not a huge amount, but there are electives that are within the major, and then you have freedom to choose those.
We do block scheduled freshmen into 2 courses. The goal there is to make sure that you can meet people into your major. So for example, you might be block scheduled as a freshman into the Introduction to Engineering class and a communications course, which counts for general education. And that way it's your opportunity to meet some folks. And then the rest of your courses, there's more flexibility in which courses that you enroll in which sections.
Great, yeah, so a question about how easy is it to get registered for the classes we need? So we do put a high priority on making sure that there's enough classes, enough seats in the classes for people to graduate and to move through what we call the critical path. So with this structure of the 4-year plan, there are definitely courses that you have to take first before you take the next courses, et cetera. And when those are required courses, we do our best to make sure that there's enough seats there. You know, I have to say we can't guarantee if there's an elective that you really want to take and it's an elective that you'll have a seat there. You will have a seat in an elective class, even though it may not be your #1 choice. It's just a little bit challenging for the very popular electives. We don't have too many of those, but we do have them.
Yeah, for people who don't register or don't graduate in 4 years, it's really not, I haven't seen the case that it's because of courses that they weren't able to register for. We've been able to get people into courses if they need in a particular semester. If you ever have trouble, just talk to someone at the Engineering Student Success Center or to department chair, and usually we can work some magic and get you in to courses you need. The reason people take longer than 4 years is they often, if you're working and going to school at the same time, you may want to extend things for 5 years. Or let's say you're really involved in a club and you want to take a leadership position and not take 16 units in a semester. That would be another reason to extend things to 5 years. Or let's say you're starting in pre-calculus. Rather than Calc 1, and then you just need a little bit extra time. So those are typically the reasons to extend to 5 years rather than not getting courses.
Yeah, so the question around evening classes, it's probably program dependent. There are some programs that do run evening classes. At the undergraduate level, not very often though. Evening classes are typically more for graduate students, many of whom may be working. All right, and then a question about how do I know what classes to register for? So if you want to get a jump start on this, you can actually go to our catalog and you can look up the 4-year roadmaps for the programs, and that actually tells you each semester what to take. I can fish through and see if I can drop a link to that in the chat. Like Associate Dean Okamoto said, there may be reasons why you may end up extending your studies, and then it gets a little bit more complicated because you still need to take the things in the right order. But if you're not exactly following that roadmap, we have advisors, and you're required to meet with an advisor every semester to go over your course schedule to help keep you on track.
And during orientation, you will meet with an advisor, whether you're coming in as a freshman or as a transfer student. And there is no block scheduling for transfer students. Everybody comes in a little bit different with transfer students with different things they've taken at their community college or their other school. So that it doesn't really work.
Yeah, so there was a question back here about how students are supported in terms of I guess, assistance with studying and tutoring. So maybe we could talk about that a little bit. So we do have a lot of our honors clubs, honor societies that do tutoring for students. And then in science, they have peer tutors available for the lower division calculus and pre-calc and chemistry and physics. And then maybe Nicole, do you want to say a little bit more about other programs we might have?
Oh, sorry, I was typing an answer to a student in the chat. What was that?
Oh, just opportunities for tutoring in the college and support for students.
Yeah, there's quite a bit of tutoring available through the university. There's also late night tutoring in the library. And then science has their own tutoring, and then some individual courses, like there's a couple junior level electrical engineering classes that are super hard. So we have special tutors set up for them. Where it's sometimes there isn't as much tutoring available is in like getting to some of the upper level, second semester, junior, senior level classes. But there's a lot available, particularly for the lower division math and science classes.
There's a really good question in here about study abroad. So again, with the engineering students, if you're trying to finish in 4 years, the specific courses you have to take each semester, it may not be possible to find another school at a different institution abroad that has exactly those same courses that are articulated to us. But that said, there are a good number of engineers that will do a study abroad experience either in the summer term or in the January term. And then we also have something called GTI, our Global Technology Initiative. And that is an opportunity for engineering students to do a short term, I think it's 2 or 3 weeks study abroad experience. And then they have classes you can choose that are focused a little bit more closely to engineering. So there are different ways you can do it. It just wouldn't be that kind of a stereotypical way where you would just leave for a whole semester, a whole academic year, because again, it's hard to find programs that are equally articulated to ours, unless you're open to spending a little bit longer on your studies. Questions about internships. So we have a really excellent career center at San Jose State. And so companies work directly with the career center to post internship opportunities, and they will also run info sessions. And so if you think about companies that are really consumer facing, if we think about Google and all the products that Google has or Alphabet now, people are aware of that, but they might not know all that is going on over there. And so info sessions are a great way to learn more. But there's other examples of companies like Xilinx, which is they make computer chips, and Xilinx, they're in all these products we have, but you may not know about them. And they also are always looking for interns. And so it's great to go to these info sessions to learn. And so the Career Center is really something to get involved in early. So you can learn more about companies and then participate in job fairs and info sessions.
I see a question in the chat that may apply to a lot of the freshmen about AP calculus scores.
Yeah, I'm seeing some. Yeah, I just want to say I am not able to respond directly to the direct messaging questions because we're trying to follow the chat from everybody. So if you want to put it in the main question, that would be great. Yeah, so go ahead. Yeah, let's see if we can.
So I know like last summer, AP calculus scores were coming out still. A lot of them came in August, well after people registered. And so it's possible to change. We had a lot of students last summer that the advisors were helping them to switch their math class once their AP scores came out. So there's a placement test. You should be getting notification about placement tests if you're an incoming freshman for math. And that might place you in one particular class and you get registered for it. And then your AP scores come in, and then you get to move to a higher level class. So you'll get a connection with an advisor during orientation, and they can help you change your math class if that happens. And I'm sure that it's going to happen again with a decent number of students.
And I will say, if you didn't get an AP score high enough to get credit for calculus, so to that question that just came in recently, don't worry about that. AP scores are not considered in whether you get your admission or not. So that's separate. And I'm a person, I got, I think, a 3 on the AB calculus test myself. So I think I might've gotten a little bit of credit, but I learned most of my calculus in college. So
yeah, that just might change your math placement. You won't get that. You won't get to skip whatever math class you're planning to skip. That's all.
Yeah, and we have, and if you also end up placing in where you don't, I'll just say this out front, if you place in where you're not able to get into the Calculus 1 class, that's fine. We have a really good fraction of our students placing into pre-calculus, but I would take a hard look at catching up the following summer with a math class at a community college so that you can, again, math is always on the critical path in your first 2 years in engineering. And so it's really important to try to do the catch up.
Mm-hmm.
The placement test will be taking place during orientation.
Actually, there is, you should get information sometime soon. You can take it during orientation, or you could come into campus earlier to take it. Or if you live far away from campus, and I think it's like more than 50 miles, there will be an online version available as well. So that if you live in San Diego, you don't have to come to campus just for a placement test or come super early on day of orientation to take the placement test.
And then a question about math placements for transfers.
Let's see, I'm looking for the particular question. Transfer students, there is no placement test. Typically, people come in having already taken a math class or 2 or 3 or 4 at their previous school. And so you just move into the next class. There's no test.
Here's a really good question about what the engineering community is like at SJSU. Is it competitive, supportive? Do you take a lot of the classes with the same students as a transfer student? So again, like Associate Dean Okamoto said, transfer students will come in at different places, but there's typically some courses that you would take that would be a part of the normal 3-year curriculum where you're going to be in those together with the people in your major. And so so you will start seeing lots of familiar faces once you hit that part of the curriculum. If you're coming in as a transfer student and you haven't done all the lower division, you're still going to see a few familiar faces because you're all coming in that way. We just have so many transfer students. The community itself, I think that the nature of engineers, and I'll contrast that to other disciplines. So for engineers to get a job, like Associate Dean Okamoto mentioned, there's lots of things that employers are looking for, and the same goes for graduate school. So we want to think about what your experiences are like. And even if you're working a job at a restaurant, that's really a great experience, because there's lots of elements of engineering that go into that. But they're not looking so much at GPA. And so this idea that you're competing with each other to get a really, really high GPA, it isn't quite the same. Engineers do, yeah, that face on Associate Dean Okamoto's face. Engineers do, we're a really collegial bunch. We have a lot of required group projects where you have to work together, and that's just like the real world. And then there's a lot of people will get together and study, just like maybe you might have done at community college or in high school, where you've got homework that's due, and maybe there's a chat going on in Discord about how do you get to number 3. We don't want people cheating and just copying each other's work, but the idea of everybody getting together to work on homework and projects is really normal. So I think that we have a pretty good collegial environment. We have a fair number of non-traditional students. To get to another question, I don't know if we have necessarily a club for the more experienced students that we have. If you are a veteran, I know we have a Veterans Resource Center. We have a lot of older students who come in through that route. But you're welcome to join our existing clubs, and especially if people have work experience that they're bringing, that is a real value add to the classes. So I think we are a pretty inclusive environment. Let's see. Oh, here's an interesting one. How can I get in contact with current engineering students to talk with them about their personal experiences? So we don't have engineering students posting their emails out there in the public domain, but if you wanted, if there was a club, for example, that you were interested in, you're always welcome to email that the club leaders. There's usually, they create a generic email that they respond to, and then that would be a way to hear directly from some students. Yeah, so will the specific engineering sessions be recorded? I am not sure if they're planning on recording all of them. I think some of them do have some pre-recorded information already posted on their site.
Actually, Cheryl, all of the sessions today will be recorded and will
excellent.
be posted on our website after the event.
Oh, thank you so much, Sanela. Okay, so that's a good answer to that question. So please return back please return back and find out if you want to check out another session that's happening at the same time as one you're already in live. Oh, here's another good one. What is SGSU's focus on research? So I would say that we have a student-centered focus on research, and so many of our faculty are doing research projects. And then there would be opportunities for students to be involved in doing research if that's something that's interesting to you. We have faculty that are publishing papers with their students, which is exciting. So yeah, if you're interested in that, I would just advise you to check with the faculty members when you first join to learn a little bit more about what opportunities might be available. Oh, somebody wants to know about the MESA engineering program. So maybe Nicole could talk about that.
Sure. And I put the link in the chat, but it's probably like 57 messages ago now. Let me put that in real fast. It's a great program. It's a program for students who either are typically underrepresented in engineering, or if you're eligible for a Pell Grant, so lower income or first in your family in college. And there's extra advising and support. There are programs with industry, extra programs to get people career ready, and really to develop a community of people to support each other as they're going through the university together. But you can check out the link that I just stuck in the chat for more information. And there is an application that you do have to fill out. It's a very, very short application, but to show that you're eligible. There was a question about senior design. What is the senior design? Most majors, civil's a little bit different, but other majors have a 2-semester senior design sequence. And it's a team-based process where each team works on its own project, and it's a project that integrates work from previous courses. A lot of the projects are sponsored by industry, some are for competitions, some students come up with them on their own, some are more research focused. There's a real range. The one I'm most familiar with is mechanical. So in mechanical, just as an example, in the fall, you really define your project objectives and you do, brainstorming and analysis and come up with a final design if you're on track. And then spring is construction and testing. And for all of the programs, there are multiple presentations to help develop your communication, your technical communication skills throughout. And most students find they really enjoy the senior design sequence and really seeing where they're going with their degrees.
I saw a question about financial aid options if you weren't eligible for FAFSA. And so I put a link in here for information from the California Student Aid Commission about financial aid for undocumented or Dreamer students. And so please check that out if that applies to you. A question here, are engineering classes taught by professors or lecturers? And so the answer is both. And there's definitely a reason for that. So we have about 90-ish tenure line, what we would call regular faculty here that at San Jose State. And then we have about 170 lecturer faculty. And so lecturer faculty might be teaching one class per year, or in some programs like aerospace engineering, we have Janine Hunter, for example. She's a full-time lecturer, so she teaches more than one class per semester. And so the lecturers are coming with industry experience, and sometimes they're coming right directly from their industry job to teach you, or they're coming after they've retired, or in Janine's case, they came from industry some time ago, but they're really focused on teaching. And so the mixture of the lecturers and the regular faculty, I think, provides a really great education for our students. So it just means that you're learning directly from people in their field rather than entirely from academics who are focused on research that may not be so industry relevant. So you get the cutting edge and the industry relevant all at the same time. And that's one of the reasons why our students are considered really ready to work. The transition time as they onboard into new companies really like how quickly our students really just transition into the workforce.
And I know at our last accreditation visit, so accredited by a group called ABET, which is Accreditation Board for Engineering and Technology. And we prepare extensive reports and assessment, and then they come visit campus for several days. And after meeting with our lecture faculty, they were very impressed, and they actually explicitly listed that on some of the program reports as a huge benefit of the school.
Definitely. Oh, somebody wants to know our senior projects group or individual. I think no matter what, they're always group. That's one of the criteria that we are accredited under. They want to know that our students will have competency working in teams. And so senior projects, and then even for the Frosh who are coming in, our Engineering 10 course that involves some group work on really complicated projects. Oh, I want to give a shout out to Professor Oscar Kalish from Materials Engineering. He put a link in the chat about research projects. So the opportunities to do research, it's a little bit more challenging in programs like computer or software engineering, where they have a lot of master's students that also need to have their research projects supervised. But in smaller programs like materials engineering or biomedical engineering, there are more opportunities to do research, I would say. And so, for example, I would urge you to check out Oscar's page that he put. He has a lot of research going on himself.
And it's helpful if you actually all the full-time faculty have posted office hours. If you want to do research with a faculty member, do a little research on them online and just show up their office hours and talk to them. It's better than sending an email, because they all get lots of emails, including from a lot of people who are not yet San Jose State students. And so if you actually show up to their office hours, say, hey, this project you're working on looks really cool. Are there any opportunities for me as an undergraduate to get involved? That's a good way to go.
And then occasionally faculty will send an email out saying they're looking. So I do a little bit of research myself. So I've got 3 students who work with me, and I don't want to jinx him, but one of my students got an internship, and he was a mechanical engineering major, and his internship came about because he was doing research, trying to do answer questions where you don't know the answer in advance. And then also because he had the coding experience that we needed for the internship project, where he was able to go beyond what he'd learned in his classes. So it is really nice to be able to do that. But also with our project classes, the opportunity to just go beyond the standard and just do things that have never been done before is always there in all of our project classes, the capstone classes.
Question about, can you take a class at junior college and transfer the credit? Yes. In fact, when you're a matriculated student, you can go and take class in the summer somewhere else and transfer it back. People do it all the time. You just want to check to make sure that it either, if it's a major course, like say physics, that it articulates as the right course at San Jose State, or if it's general ed course, you have to check and make sure it counts for a general ed area that you're missing. And our Engineering Student Success Center can help with that if there are questions.
Great, yeah. So can senior projects be done in conjunction with an internship? We do have a couple of programs like that. So one would be the Jable Scholars, for example. And I think students in technology and biomedical and maybe mechanical may participate in that. And we don't have that many others, but I think we're trying to grow that, because that is a good example of where you're getting credit for things that you would need to be doing otherwise and getting the industry experience at the same time. Somebody is asking about engineering scholarships, so I'll drop a link to the chat. We're a little too late for this year, but we actually have a lot of scholarships for continuing students, and so I would urge you to take a look at applying in the next cycle. Yeah, so there are Zoom meetings for all of the departments. Again, no worries if you missed it when we've put it in there before. Let me put the link again. And so I definitely urge you, oh, there we go. Yeah, definitely urge you to go check out the Zooms for the department that you've been admitted to, or if you were considering different majors, to check those out. And again, thanks to Sanela confirming that they would be recorded. So if you're not able to watch them synchronously and participate, you could check them out after the fact.
There's a question has come up about, let's say you fail course your senior year, but it's not in the AGD requirements. Will admission be revoked? I don't think so, but I'm going to put a link in the chat for admissions, and there's a little chat option that comes up. I'm saying I don't think so, but I don't want to say for sure one way or the other, just because I just don't work in that area.
Yeah, I would definitely urge you though, just, try to keep putting in that same effort that got you the admission. Don't, you've still got a few more weeks of either your community college or your senior year of high school. So stay focused. I know it's hard. Okay, yeah, and the question about the deadlines, the deadlines for the scholarships are posted on the financial aid website. And so the students, you would need to apply through the financial aid website.
And for Jose's question, again, go to the chat with admissions and that link. I just don't know.
Yeah, a question about class size for engineering versus the general education courses. So there will be larger classes in the gen ed or GE courses, but they're not always large. You could look for courses that might be more focused, especially once you're there may be some that might be very specialized, and they still will satisfy that requirement, and they may not be that big. And then our engineering classes, for us, a large class is up in the 80s, but we don't have too many of those. We really like to have them smaller. We also don't have a lot of large classrooms, so that's another constraint, but that works out in everybody's favor.
Yeah, for the communication class that we're block scheduling some of the freshmen into, those sections are capped at 27 students. And I know the composition courses, which is English 1A, English 1B, those have a very firm cap. Not sure what it is, but I want to say it's around 25 or so, because the professors need time to give feedback on the writing. Some of the other general ed classes may be larger.
Here's a good question about the companies. So the companies that hire from SJSU, so we've got examples of local startups. So that would be a company that only exists here, or kind of a small to medium-sized company. I was busy looking up testing facilities, for example, and we have a company called Westpac, which is in South San Jose, and they only exist here. It's a family owned and run company. And they do testing services for a variety of other companies, which is a whole interesting thing. Like, you know, if you put something on a truck and you drive it across country, will it break? And so that would be an example of a local company. We have, I would say that we have examples of that. And then we have companies that are national or international with a base that's here. So I don't know if we have examples of companies that would come here that are based somewhere else, but pretty much every major company wants to have even a small footprint in Silicon Valley. So there are a lot of companies. So for example, a robotics company, an automation company, Omron, they're based in Illinois, but they've got a branch of their robotics operation in San Jose. So we have a fair number of interactions with them. And then companies like Intel, which used to be huge here, but now they're spread out to different parts of the United States. They still have a presence here and they still recruit our students. Examples are Apple, Lockheed Martin, Cisco. So I think we're the #1 source of hires for Apple and Cisco, for example, and we're way up there for Lockheed Martin as well. Yeah, so definitely if you want to see the engineering labs, reach out to the department head. So you can go to those info sessions and hopefully they'll provide some information about how they can offer tours. Yeah, ooh, competitiveness for internships. I think the most important thing for internships is to start early. So if you're kind of thinking, you know, from the beginning of the fall semester about what you're going to do the following summer, and then you're just regularly going to info sessions, going to the career fair, but not only the career fair. And then if there's any activities with clubs where they have people coming from industry and networking, that's really, really important. You know, the career fair can be a source of an internship, but it shouldn't be the only source because it's actually a pretty busy event and it's hard to make a lot of connections there. It's usually things like info sessions where you get a chance to talk to the speaker. That's a great way to learn about companies, as well as, you know, you can ask directly about internships. And then people who think about it.
Okay.
Yeah, just going to say, if you think about it, you know, we just had our spring break. And if you think about it only during the spring break about what are you going to do at the end of the semester in May, it may be a little bit too late. So you want to just be open to opportunities all academic year round.
And we have some companies that have really strong relationships with certain clubs. Like SpaceX likes to hire people out of our Formula SAE team. And I talked to another smaller company whose name I can't remember right now, that they deliberately recruit students out of the Baja team. And I just know those because I come from a mechanical engineering background and they hire a lot of mechanicals. But I'm sure that there's similar relationships with some of the other clubs.
Yeah, somebody, for the folks who joined late, we should reintroduce ourselves. So my name is Cheryl Ehrman. I'm the Dean of the College of Engineering, because this is Chat with the Dean. And I'm a chemical engineer by training. I was a chemical engineering professor for 19 years and 7 years as department chair before coming over to San Jose State. And then I'll let Nicole introduce herself again.
Hello, everybody. Nicole Komodo, and I'm Associate Dean for Undergraduate Programs and Student Success Initiatives, and I come out of mechanical engineering. I've been here at San Jose State for a little over 20 years.
Oh, yeah. So you got 2 women up here representing. I just want to call out, we have a faculty that's about 1/3 female, which is actually one of the highest percentages of women engineering faculty in the country. Our student body is about 1/4 women students. So we'd love to have it be 50-50 someday, and we'll get there, but it is what it is.
In terms of internships, you can start as a freshman, and maybe you're getting a job in an engineering company that's not officially an internship, and that's okay too, because you get really a feel for what that company does. And can you take a term off for an internship? You can take 1 semester off without filing any paperwork with the university and then just come back. Where you have to file a leave of absence is if you're going to be gone for 2 semesters. It is important, if you're going to take a semester off, though, that you meet with an advisor first so that you can see how that's going to affect what classes you're taking, what semester. There are some of the smaller programs might only offer a certain class once a year. So you want to make sure that check how it affects that. Even in some of the bigger programs, the senior design sequence, it may be a year long and only start in the fall. So all of those things are kind of to factor in. You can factor those in as you're deciding to take a semester off for an internship.
So again, for department-specific questions, I would urge you to go to that info session or watch it after from the recording. There are tons of companies that are looking for mechanical engineers, though, to just get to that point. It's a good time to be a student. I think the economy is relatively strong from the perspective